Welcome to Torah Conversations, a show where we discuss the weekly Torah portion read in synagogues all over the world from a Messianic and Christian perspective, for all believers, Jew and Gentile, to connect with God's heart for Israel. This week, we're going to be discussing the portion of Bereshit from Genesis 1:1 to 6:8. So if you have a Bible, we want to invite you to open it up and read it with us. I pray that the Holy Spirit will touch your heart and change your life. Hey guys, welcome to a brand new series of Torah Conversations where we're going to be taking a whole year on the Torah portions of the week that are read in synagogues across the world from a Messianic and Christian perspective. Now, if you guys remember, in 2020, we took a whole year going through the Torah portions of the week, the 5 books of Moses, following the same schedule that Jewish people in synagogues read, and we discussed them from a Messianic and Christian perspective. And I had a different guest on every week coming from a different background. We just discussed the Torah portions and it was life-changing. And we kind of pushed that to the side last year as a show, and we kind of focused more on the prophetic side of things. But this year, the Lord is saying, bring it back. Bring the word of the Lord back to the center of his show. And this is exactly what we're going to do. But this year, we're not just going to be discussing the Torah portions on the podcast, but we're going to go one step further. We're going to launch in the next couple of weeks a discussion group, a study group where you can become a member and just connect with other believers who love the Torah portions, who love Israel, and who want to learn more. And we're going to have a short teaching each week that's going to be accessible on an online platform where when you become a member, when you sign up to become a member, you're going to have access to this short teaching on the parsha, the portion of the week, every week. And then there's going to be a Zoom discussion every week where you're going to be connecting with other believers who love Israel, who love the Torah portions, and we're going to be discussing the Torah. It's going to be really exciting. So it's not launched yet, but we will launch that in the next 2 weeks or so. So if you want to be kept up to date on this, just go on to tillzionsings.com and sign up to our email list, and you're going to be informed on this whole thing. Well, for the first week, this is the first episode of the new series and the first portion as well. And I have my guest all the way from Israel, Chaim Malespin, with me. Welcome, Chaim, to the show.
Thank you so much, Master Frank. It is wonderful to be doing all this. Is so exciting and getting deep, going deep in the Word. Nothing better than.
Yeah, love it. Well, just first of all, why don't you just tell us about yourself, for those who don't know you. Who are you and what do you do in Israel?
Yeah, so I live in Israel for about a quarter of a century. I wasn't born here, but grew up here. That means army, university, everything. Here, degree is in government diplomacy strategy, history of the Middle East, counterterrorism. And then I started with the help of God, and through a wonderful partner, I was able to, by faith, start a charity and leave my carpentry aside and jump into helping, disciple nations to practically God, his landed people here through helping with the immigrants. Lots of immigrants come and we take care of them, food, clothing, shelter, Hebrew school, job training, everything that God says in his word he would do throughout this whole Bible concerning Aliyah, or this wonderful return home to the promised land, which I did and others are doing.
Yeah. So tell us more about this Aliyah Return Center thing that you do. What exactly do you guys do and who do you serve?
Yeah, well, people make Aliyah. Essentially that's immigration. And so they need to get absorbed and they need to get attached and culturized to the tempo here, which is high speed. And just in Israel, and just understand that they're a son and daughter of Abraham. And sometimes their basic needs need to be looked after first, like food, clothing, shelter. Just a supermarket cart full of food, or to be able to have a place to stay for the first few weeks and get their job opened and find an apartment that's more permanent after, get that thing furnished, get their stuff
Yeah.
advice. It's really a full time job. And on top of that, of course, there's the language training for Hebrew, job training,
Mm.
and much more. We got the warehouses. About 12 Galileans work for me. About
Wow.
It changes different times.
That sounds biblical.
Yeah,
12. It's like 12 disciples
in the
and 12 tribes of Israel, and then 12 people helping you with the return center,
yeah,
bringing Jewish people back home to the land.
it's amazing to have these 12 Israelis, but then there's also many from the nations who come to volunteer or lend a helping hand for a month or two or three. And of course, when they come from the nations, they love to join the Ambassador Academy, which is this discipleship
Mm.
school for people to come and be able to learn. And they go to our prayer house, and so it's great. We're
Wow.
great. Uh,
That's amazing. So obviously you guys are a messianic ministry in the land of Israel.
yeah,
The people that you help to make Aliyah, are they believers or are they not believers, and or in between, and sort of are they on a journey, and how does that faith and then bringing people back in the land kind of, how do they come together?
yeah. So because we are a Zionist ministry, like a patriotic ministry, a charity. So
Yeah.
we have this motto: unconditional love in uncompromising faith is a motto we came up with at the beginning years ago, almost a
Wow.
decade ago. And this really just means unconditional love. There's no conditions. Someone could have a hippie shirt on, they could have the black hat and the side curls, Jewish, that look like
Yeah.
Hasidei Karlin, Hasidei Breslev, uh,
Mm.
kinds, and we don't have any discrimination. We say, unconditional love. And primarily, people are not believers in, they might believe in God, they might not believe in God, primarily not believers in Yeshua as the Messiah that we help. But we just welcome them and bless them anyway. And we love it.
Mm.
We smile, give them a good welcome home party to their land, to our,
Yeah. That's amazing.
yeah.
So some of these people, have you seen some of these people, or maybe a lot of people who weren't believers when they made Aliyah but come to faith because of their stay with you guys? Really?
Yeah, I'd say that the whole engagement of people being able to understand that that the death, that the Messiah of Israel is alive and well, and that people's lives are being changed. So I think that that's a big important thing for people to see visibly. And what it does more than anything,
Yeah.
opens people to ask questions and say, hey, what's going on with faith? What I mean, to ask deeper questions than just, once they get through the basic. It says, don't just say be warmed and filled. It says also go and step in and help them. And so I think
Yeah.
when that happens, people are really more excited to open and go deeper into what they think about the Bible. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, even if they don't come to faith, I'm just thinking the messianic faith has not been widely accepted in
no,
Israel, because people have this mindset that if you're a Jew, you cannot believe in Jesus or Yeshua as the Messiah. But even just the presence of your ministry in the land,
yeah,
that in itself is a testimony that Jesus, Yeshua, is the Jewish Messiah, and he is here to fulfill the promises that God made with Israel in bringing Jewish people back home, and then breathing, just like Ezekiel 36 says, the valley of dry bones,
yeah,
and he breathes his spirit of life
yes.
into those bones, and that's what's
And
happening.
that the fact that that Ezekiel 37, you care, because some Christians, there's a perspective that they don't care about the promises for Israel, or don't care about Israel. They want to just go and hammer them. And I almost, sometimes I act this out and I say, what do you think shows the love of the one who died for Israel the most? This kind of person A. You guys are all so dumb. You don't understand, the guy is right in front of you, and you're all going to hell anyway. That guy or this.
Yeah.
Hey, we just want to love you with no conditions. You don't have to hear a sermon. You don't have to do nothing. We just want to love on you. That's it. And you just, and be blessed. Here's some food. God bless you. We appreciate you that you've kept the Torah scrolls and got this to our table, this Bible, and We just honor you, and we hate that anti-Semitism is rising. We want to hug you and bless you with no strings attached.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
think we're,
Yeah.
and so I've seen that we do that one, and it works really, really good.
Mm. I love it. I love it so much. So, what's happening in Israel at the moment? I know this is you guys have just had 7 days of
Yep,
Sukkot, and then Simchat Torah was
yep.
yesterday.
Yeah, Israel was closed down a while ago. I mean, by March we opened up, but the nations didn't open up. America wasn't open. Canada wasn't. Now we're open for a long time, ready for people to come and continue to volunteer, continue to help, continue to join our ambassador academy, continue to be part and parcel of what we see God's got going here in the land of Israel.
Yeah.
And so suddenly they came like a flood. I mean, so all cylinders, banging on all cylinders, and you got people that are sleeping in the sukkah and the tabernacle, people that do the
Wow.
school, people that want to. So it's like everybody jumped to it, and so it's busy. It's the busiest season we've had for 2.5 years since 2019. It
Wow.
hasn't been this busy where you just are like, man, I wonder if we'll get to sleep. And so, but it's good. It's a good season. We're happy to see all of our many properties being used and all of the programs
Mm.
being facilitated. And it's just great. I'm very happy, very tired, but
Yeah.
very happy.
Yes.
And it's going to be nice when we can get back to our normal rhythm of life. Uh, Not talking about lockdowns rhythm. I'm saying
No. No. No.
speedy, good, healthy rhythm, but not too much.
Right. Yeah. I think just going to the to Jerusalem to celebrate Sukkot, and even not just with people from everywhere in Israel, but from the nations gathering in Jerusalem. That in itself is a fulfillment. I mean, partial fulfillment anyway of prophecy, Zechariah 14. Right. The nations flocking to Jerusalem and to celebrate Sukkot for rain to come to their
Yep.
nation the following year. And I think for the first time, the nations are able to go to Israel, come to Jerusalem for the first time to celebrate Sukkot. And I think we know what's going to happen in the nations after this, which is the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. And we're really excited about that. So we're going to be praying for that. Well, let's go into the parsha this week then. The first ever parsha
Yeah.
of the year. It's Parashat
Yeah.
Bereshit in the beginning, which is from Genesis 1:1 to, let's see, Genesis 6:8. So it talks about the very beginning, creation, and then talks about the fall, and then the genealogies
Yep.
and the Nephilim, and it gets to just before the flood. Just before then. So what are your, we're going to get into the specific chapters later, but what are your thoughts about the portion itself in general?
There's just so much to unpack. We could spend an hour just on the first letter, on the word
Yeah.
that is, on Bereshit, and what does that even mean? We could talk about all language came from Hebrew, essentially, early Hebrew. That's where English came from, and Greek, and
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
talk about so much, but I just think that seeing that Eve, when she messed up, that hope, when
Mm.
Adam, that hope, when Abel didn't know what to do, that hope, when Cain, we don't
Yeah.
always have the answers, but there's that hope. And I love that the serpent's head will
Mm.
be crushed, and you have it hidden in the names of those in
Yeah.
the names of the very beginning descendants. And there's so many mysteries. Were there
Mm.
people there, and why is there, you have Lamech, you have Yared,
Mm.
Hina, Enosh, Seth. And so it all is a secret message about the coming Messiah. Uh,
Right.
I'd say if you look over, it's just so full. The Bible's so full, and I was remembering as I was dancing my little legs off last night with the Torah
Yeah.
scroll, and all of us, we had like 70 people in our tabernacle in the Galilee at the Aliyah Return Center.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I was like, am I really happy that I have the words of life to dance with? I'm like, yeah, yeah. I don't know if Christians normally dance with a Torah scroll, but I do in Israel, and I think it's the best ever. You're
Yeah.
taking it out of the classroom and you're dancing, and you're saying, "This stuff is life. This stuff is what it's all about." You can get caught up in the little things, or you can go and look for the prophetic future that we all have. I know someone says, "Hey, well, what about Cain? And how are there all those people? And how did he was marked? So who doesn't get him? There was that
Right.
for who to have other sons of." My point is, if we look into the called it's called the common thread, we see God has prepared us for everything we need for life and for godliness and for the future and the culmination of this timeline called our existence. And
Wow.
prepared to rule
Yeah.
and reign as priests for the next timeline or the next dimension.
Yeah, I love it. So, I mean, from what I can see, I mean, even just from the get go, we see the end from the beginning.
Yeah,
We see
yeah,
the Garden of
yeah,
Eden, Adam and Eve, and just multiplying, being fruitful and multiplying and ruling the earth. And that is really a
yep,
picture of the age to come, where the Lord, it's what the Lord wanted from the beginning. And then Adam and Eve obviously messed up, but we know as people of the new covenant that there's a second
right,
Adam with his bride that the Lord is going to use to bring
right,
forth to rule the earth in the age to come. And that's going to be
yeah.
glorious. I love it. So chapters 1 and 2 talks about creation and Eden. Any thoughts? What are your thoughts on these two chapters?
Well, here in Jerusalem, sometimes you have deep conversation. One of the conversations was about the laws of thermodynamics and essentially light bending and what light can do, how fast light can go, what can go beyond light. The laws of during an eclipse, Einstein noticing stars that are supposed to be blocked, but the light bends them around, the moon. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to say, was this light that flooded the universe that we can see stars that are light years, many, many, many light years away? Earth hasn't been around that long. So how do we see them? Could it be the whole universe was one solid flood of light, and therefore you can see far, far, far points? And was this lasting for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, or is each day a day, which is 24 hours? I would just like this just before, so we don't go into all that. I like to just say there
Yeah.
are mysteries in the universe. It could have been thousands of years until the sun was created, because before it was created,
Yeah.
we were living off that light. Plants were living off that light. Plants were created, and they were living off this illumination of the galaxy. The only way you can see a star that's trillions of light years away. That's the only way you can see it with your eyes.
Yeah.
We haven't been around sunlight, obviously, you know. But my point,
Yeah.
whether or not it was trillions of years before the sun was created, who cares? The sun was, it was 24-hour period. 20, that's what it was. And it has to be that, or else we start we it then it has to, because that would go against the rest of the biblical measurements of days. It would make the rest
Right.
unintelligible.
Yeah. So I mean, what I see is that obviously God speaks, and then order came out of chaos,
Right.
because the spirit of God hovers
Right.
over the waters. Now, what I find interesting here, Chaim, I don't know if you heard this before, but you probably have, or maybe not. But people kind of assume that. Verse 2, it says, verse 1, actually, in the beginning, God created the
Right.
heavens and the earth. And people assume that this is the planet Earth. But I think the planet Earth didn't actually take shape by this point, because the earth was formless and void. And then verse 6, as God says, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And then God made the expanse and separated the waters which were below the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse, and it was so. So from what I can see is that there seems to be when God created the heavens, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, everything was kind of mixed together. It didn't take the shape of the heavens and the earth. It's almost like just water. And you just think about the word for heavens, shamayim, and then water is mayim, shamayim, mayim. It's kind of like connected. And then the expanse were separating the waters above from the waters beneath. So I think of a bathtub filled with water, and then you stick a balloon inside, and then you blow the balloon up, and then there's a little bit of water inside the balloon. But when you blow up the balloon, it separates the water from the water. And then verse 9 says, God said, let the waters below the heavens be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called the seas. That is planet Earth. And then I was thinking, if that is how it is, then the universe that we live in actually has a physical edge. And on the other side of that edge is actually water. Then I'm looking at Psalms 148, and it says in verse 4, and it says in Hebrew, Hallelujah shmei hashamayim v'hamayim asher me'al hashamayim. So praise him, highest heavens, and the waters that are above the heavens.
Right.
That seems to confirm it.
In Hebrew, it makes total sense because mayim, water, and shamayim, their water. It's
yes.
Yeah, in Hebrew, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the kind of view that I've never heard. Just being in church for so many. I mean, I wasn't brought up Christian, but when I got saved when I was quite young, and I'd never heard this kind of teaching before. But this is what I can see, and then I was thinking, right after it was created, there was a wedding, and I just think about the universe, the heavens, is like a canopy, like a wedding canopy, like a chuppah,
right,
and then right inside and right underneath there's a wedding. I was thinking, well, the whole universe was created for something. It's unto a wedding. It's unto a day when the two tabernacles becoming one.
Canopy of the sky. Yeah, people might.
Yeah,
that's how I was married. That's how you do. There's a canopy placed over you, 4 people.
yes,
And then the bride and the groom come underneath, and we step on the cup, kiss. It's great. Not
yeah. So it seems like from the get-go we kind of see what the end of the story is, right?
right. One of the things that brought my dad, he was on a long search. He was in yeshiva, and he was just searching every question and trying to find out. One of the things that he started to say, how do we know that there is a God and that things were all created and it didn't just all come here? It's like one of the things he thought, it's like saying, pretend there's a lake of oil, and then there's a forest next to it. Just pretend that those two things exist, and then thermonuclear bomb blows up, and then you expect that every oil forms into letters and splatters on the wood, blows up all at once, forms into paper, and then the letters splatter on stories and books and volumes, and they all become alphabetical with a beginning and a middle and an end and a purpose and a plan, and they all are stacked in a library, in the biggest library in the world. That's kind of what it is to believe that things just happened. It's too unfathomable to believe that. And he said, look at how an apple isn't the size of a house. An apple is the size of just the size an orange is. A banana is just for us to enjoy. And he said, man, God does exist, and God does love me, and look at me.
Yeah,
And this, a horse is just perfect for you to ride, and a cat is just so
love it. All
thinking
right,
of all creation.
yeah. And chapter 2 talks about the Garden of Eden,
Right.
and how it looks. And he created Adam and Eve and put them inside the garden to steward. And what are your thoughts about this?
Well, again, you said it at the beginning, is we know the end from the beginning, and learn how to steward, like what a rabbi once said. He said, I forgot who said it, if I knew the world would be destroyed tomorrow, I would plant a tree today. How does that make sense? How's that tree gonna? But it's all this that just shows this whole earth is about us proving that we are stewards. We know how to steward our families, steward our businesses, be stewards. And so the first thing he does, he creates man and women, and he wants them to steward this, and he gives them the perfect place, a paradise, if you will. And and Adama, he comes forth from the dust, and to dust the body returns, but there's a living spirit in him, which is the one that's learning in this video game called life, where we have these things to accomplish in order to prove ourselves to be followers of of the stewardship teacher, the disciple,
Mm.
and having done so, we earn our or we learn our rite of passage to rule and reign in the future. So I see that happening right at
Mm.
the beginning, and we even see the Euphrates there is an interesting fact that you've got rivers, and I know that they're part of the border of Israel, and I know the Euphrates
Yeah.
where those four angels are that hold back in the
Mm.
future, that hold back the four winds that are under Euphrates
Yeah.
right now, four fallen angels, because they end up holding winds is a
Mm.
bad thing. Right now, the winds are blowing, bringing the Jewish people home, and rallying the remnant, the winds, the four corners of heaven, essentially. And but then they're held back at a point. The Euphrates is a very big part of this, and Tigris, and yeah, I was, so it's just the Pishon, and so these four streams. I just find that it's just interesting to study how they moved after the flood and stuff. But that's too deep to get into right now.
Yeah, but I'm glad you mentioned this because I mean we've been connecting these passages with Ezekiel,
Yep.
but it seems like from this just looking at the rivers that the rivers are flowing out of Eden, which suggests that Eden was not the whole earth; it was a part of the earth. So the idea was that God would put the man and woman in the garden to steward, so which is the beginning of the priestly ministry,
Yep.
really. And then they would be fruitful and multiply, and then they go out of Eden and spread to the ends of the earth, and to make the earth look like Eden. And that's what it looks like in the millennial kingdom in the age to come, where when the Messianic temple is restored to Jerusalem. It's that Garden of Eden condition, but there's this river flowing out of the temple and then splitting two ways, and one to the east, one to the west, and just kind of bringing
Yeah.
life to the rest of the earth. And the nations would come, and then to bring the leaves back to their nation for the healing of the land. Right? It's kind of that similar picture. Isn't it?
And what are your thoughts on the Garden of Eden being actually in Jerusalem, being actually at the Temple Mount? Have you ever heard that before? That there,
I haven't
yeah,
actually. That's
rivers are no
interesting.
longer flowing out of this spot. The flood has happened, and geography and whatever has moved. I, I don't even know if
Mm.
all these rivers exist anymore. I know the Euphrates exists, but um,
Yeah.
but there's some changes that have happened. But there's this continuum thought of how Abraham was told to offer Isaac at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Mount Moriah.
Right.
Then David and the whole thing, and the temples were both had to be built on this very spot, and it's the hub of God's
Mm.
interaction with humans. And we don't know where the Garden of Eden was, but in line with that thinking, and I can say a lot more about that at another time, but that it makes sense that it would be here, and Euphrates is not that far post flood anyway, and it could very well be
Yeah.
that from this spot, where it's central in the world, and it's central all the way till the future. It would make sense that from the beginning it
Mm.
would be so as well. Just a thought.
Yeah. But I mean, we don't obviously we can't know for sure, but it's probable. But I think what is for sure is that the picture is the
Yep.
same. Right. So and I even just think the picture of the tabernacle. You have the holy the courtyard, the holy place, and the holy of holies, and then here you have Eden, and then the Garden of Eden, which is a garden inside Eden, and then you have the midst of the gardens, and then you would see God coming down to walk with Adam in the cool of the day, which some believe that it's the time of the evening offerings
Okay.
to God. It's that picture. I think it's just it's just awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. Another thing that I find looking at how social media has digressed in the world rapidly and is digressing by the
Mm.
minute. Thank you for doing content like this. That's great. And we just need more good content. I heard once Mike Pence, I met him, and he says, hey, don't just complain that there isn't good stuff out there. Make it right now. Get it out
Yeah.
there and share God's love. So anyway, I just noticed if you look at the world today, chapter 2, verse 17, you may eat of every tree of the garden except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Mm,
Everyone in this world lives in the knowledge of good and evil. Everyone wants the knowledge of good. That's bad. That's bad. They're hurting the whales. They're doing this. I'm better than them. It's knowledge of good and evil. But what we need is the tree of life. We need to feed off the glory of the Lord. We need to exalt Him in His temple and to behold His glory. And but people want to be
mm,
in this tree, and they say this. They say, "But there's good in this tree. There's good in the
yeah,
tree of knowledge of good and evil." It doesn't say bad tree, good tree, like tree of life, good,
right.
tree of bad, bad, tree of death, bad.
Mm,
No, it's tree of knowledge of good and evil. But that is not the tree we're supposed to be focused on. But that's the only tree people seem to want to be focused on. So that's a little,
yeah,
yeah, not good.
there's a lot we can say about that. Yeah. So, glory, they were in glory and then they messed up and they had to be kicked out. Chapter 3 onwards. We talked a little bit about the serpent and how there's a messianic promise here that and God says in verse 15, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. And he shall bruise you on the head, and you shall bruise him on the heel.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on just this chapter, the fall?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard many different things on it. Obviously, what is the bruise? That obviously, the serpent is a picture of the enemy. That in Israel they call it Yetzer Hara, or just the human nature that is separate from God, or not maybe not
Mm,
even necessarily that the devil is has any chance of winning anything. Really, God could snap his
mm,
now. Devil's locked up right now, but a
yeah,
for this allowing for a sea without a seashore, then there's no free choice. It's really showing you can choose. You're free to choose. That's what it's more about than
yeah,
that the devil can.
mm,
I mean, he's a defeated
yeah,
foe, but
yeah,
choice has to exist, and that's what I think it's about. What does it mean, crush the head? Well, we know that there is still a battle for the final crushing, but Satan was defeated on the cross, and but yeah, he
mm,
did bruise his heel. I mean, if you want to call that getting crucified, bruising a heel, but and yeah, so that's what we have to discuss. But many
yeah.
various interpretations have said. What do you? I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, not a whole lot on this verse, really. I mean, what I can see is just that, it's that seed, which is the, we're going to, later on, we're going to see it's the same seed in
Right,
Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. And it's that seed that we're going to see. And ultimately, it's that same seed that manifests, comes forth as the Messiah. But it's not crystal clear. But in hindsight, in retrospect, when we zoom out, it's this plan of this anointed one coming from the woman that's going to crush Satan under his
right,
feet. And and I just think that this whole chapter, it's sad, but it kind of reflects how we all
yeah,
are. When
yeah,
we sin and we try to cover ourselves, and then but God would come and pursue us, and we would hear the sound of the Lord. Verse 8, really, they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the
right,
garden in the cool of the day. Again, cool of the day is that appointed time of the day when they were supposed to meet with the Lord, but they were hiding, and then God was saying, where are you? Where are you? Ayecha. And then they kind of started blaming each other, and then they covered themselves.
Mm.
And
Those
yeah.
flaming swords are scary. I mean, some people say, "I want to see an angel." Well, if they see one of these flaming ones, these kruvim, right, with flaming swords turned
Mm,
in every direction, I mean, the creature, four living creatures, the face of a man, the face
mm,
of an ox, the face of a lion, the face of an eagle, uh, covered in
yeah.
eyes. They move straight. Those wheels within a wheels, Ezekiel. Like,
Mm,
wow, no wonder they say, "Don't be afraid." People think they're going to die on the spot at this,
right,
but
right. Yeah. What do you think about the serpent? Because it seems like, if I start seeing a talking snake, I would be surprised. But in this chapter, it doesn't seem like, it seems like Eve found the snake talking quite normal. So I mean, I've heard some interpretations that say the snake was actually one of the Chelvim, the one of the
Mm.
creatures, and yeah, what do you have any thoughts on that?
I've never heard that, but
Uh
because I
huh.
don't think that an angel, I mean, they hadn't fallen yet, or had they? Uh, were there fallen angels at that time already? When did the battle happen? Before the foundation of the
Mm,
world? The Lamb was slain before the foundation of the world. When did Lucifer fall? These are good questions. I don't know if we have the time to get
mm,
into the full theories of what that is, but
yeah.
because we know that, that obviously the snake fell here. So we see here the snake where the snake come from? If that's the devil, it means the battle had already happened in heaven. Fallen angels had already fallen, and so whether it was one
Mm,
of I don't think it was one of the cherubim, but because they implicitly follow the Lord, but there could
yeah.
have been a fallen angel or the devil himself. I don't know. It doesn't really so
Yeah.
much. To me,
Yeah.
it's that choice being offered in whatever form the choice was happening. Now, he doesn't say, "I judge you that you will stop talking." He just says, "I judge you.
Right.
On your belly you shall go," and and
Yeah.
so I think that the fact is, it's just that choice that everyone has to make. People might like to blame Eve for their problems, or Adam, or both, but all
Yeah.
of us have made these choices. All of
Yeah.
us have chosen
Yeah.
something other than God's best. All of us
Mm,
are meeting this same, without a savior, that hope. We are meeting this same expulsion from the Garden of Eden ourselves.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I heard people explain this so perfectly, saying the woman saying the devil made me do it, and then the man said the woman you gave me made me do
Yeah,
it. it's, it's just funny, but God had to send them out because because then I think what does it say? Um, lest they eat the fruit from the tree of life again and live
yeah.
forever. And people say that's cruel, but I say, well, to live forever in that state of separation is not a good thing.
No, there's
So
yeah,
it's actually love that drove them out, saying, I love you, but you can't stay here because that's not gonna be good for
yeah.
you.
And I know that when she said that there will come of your seed someone who will crush the serpent, I'm sure she was so excited. I've heard a teaching where in chapter 4 verse 1, and had relations with Chava, with Eve, and gave
Mm,
birth
mm,
to Cain, and she right away says, I have acquired a man from Adonai. But the way it's written in Hebrew, it
mm,
sounds a little different. It says, kibalti kibalti ish et Adonai. It's so it could be, so in a way it's like I have acquired the Lord, a man who is the Lord. I've acquired.
yep,
And we all
yep,
know Cain wasn't the Messiah, sadly, and it had to wait
mm,
longer down the chain of genealogies till we get to the Messiah. But she thought she thought he said it's going to happen, and now here he is. I should never had birth before.
yeah,
Boom! I've America. And it's sometimes in our mind we want God to do things on our time frame, and I want to be the star of my little movie. And no,
mm,
God's like, you're a part, we're all a part, and it's going to be a little longer than you. Be
yeah,
faithful and do your part well of the script.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we have about less than 10 minutes
Okay.
left. So let's just go on to chapter 4, 5, and a little bit of chapter 6. That's the end of the parsha. I mean, obviously, after they left the garden, it just went downhill.
Yeah.
We saw the first ever murder,
Yeah.
and then the genealogies, and then until the point where the seed was corrupted, and then the Lord had to send forth the flood, which we're going to talk about next week.
Right.
But there's one thing that I noticed, just a little detail. Cain and Abel, they were bringing offering, the korbanot, to the Lord. Is this the grain offering, the mincha? So I mean, later on, we see in Leviticus there are 5 korbanot. There's the olah, the mincha, the shlamim, chatat, and asham, and then it seems like when the Lord made the skin to cover them, that sounds like olah to me, because the burnt offering is the skin is left, but here is the mincha. So I mean, we don't see a lot about this the korbanot, the sacrifices, offerings, and we don't know how did they come to this understanding of offerings to the Lord. But do you have any thoughts about
Yeah.
this offerings and then from the land and unto worship and all that
Yeah, I
stuff?
just think it was the time with the Lord, and that they weren't just sitting around talking about nothing. They were each word was like fresh, like apples of silver, like nuggets, and God was giving them. Hey,
Mm,
Shabbat is the time to. Hey, I'm not going to tell you just name all the animals like that Cat Stevens song that I grew up listening. It's no. I'm going to tell you these animals are clean. These animals are unclean. Because how did
yeah.
who told Noah that these are the seven of this kind and that kind? I think that from the beginning they knew, and I think even at the beginning there was already these fallen angels that were already as soon as they left the protection of the garden, they were in the balagan, which means hey,
Mm,
realm, the power of the air, and I always
yeah.
thought that when it says they forged all kinds of tools from brass and iron, how did they learn how to do that? The Book of Enoch fills in some of the gaps, saying that farming and tools and makeup was taught by some fallen angels called the Watchers. Now,
Wow.
if
Wow.
I how much of that to get into right now, but it's they had already fallen. They're already messing with things leading up to the flood,
Mm.
and but they're also supposedly getting enticed by some of these technologies. Probably not much different today.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point to make for our listeners because I mean most of our listeners are going to be Gentile Christians who kind of see the Torah, the law, as something that's legalistic, and then it's this idea that God had given Israel the law to set them up for failure, to make them learn that you can't do it in your own strength, you can't earn my favor, and I mean, which is what ended up happening, but the Torah itself is actually a reflection of the order of God. It's God's creation and how He works, and it reflects the glory and the character of God.
Yeah,
And this is and even before the giving of the law of Moses, we see some of the foreshadows, or not pictures of that, elements of that in even from Genesis 1, and even before Israel became a nation.
yeah.
So that's amazing. So genealogies, we have about 5 minutes, but genealogies and the Nephilim. I mean, it just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it?
Does it does. You I noticed they live a long time. They live a long time. It's probably because of the atmosphere, and it's probably because of the
Yeah.
diet and everything. Yeah, I mean the genealogies. You can look at that. People can just Google. I think maybe just Google instead of going into how is it hidden in the names of these descendants from Adam. The whole story of Yeshua's redemption plan. It's very cool. Enosh, mankind.
Mm,
Enosh. Have
yeah.
you have
Yeah.
Yared will come down from heaven. He will teach. He will train. And so I think that I don't want to give it all away. That's what I'm holding a little suspense. Go and look at. But just
Yeah.
to jump right now into chapter 6 is pretty interesting. Uh, how indeed they if you look at the book of Jude and you look at the book of Enoch, and you look at the book of Peter. First, is it First Peter? And you have this corroboration of what it says right here in Genesis chapter 6, that they wanted to spawn.
Mm,
Fallen angels wanted to spawn. Maybe they
mm,
knew their time was short and they were going to be locked up. Right now, they're locked up in the Jude says in Tartarus, or it says in Tartarus. So it's this holding place. Of course, the Greek mythology calls it Titan, that they're Titans, Titan,
mm.
but it's all the same
Wow.
thing. And the Bible,
Never thought about
yeah, the
that.
Greek word is Tartarus, and they're locked there. But
Wow.
who's not locked up there right now at this moment in time where you and I are talking? It's the kids, the
Mm,
spawns. Their spawns are not locked up, and that's who we battle against, not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers that are like
wow.
was a spawn even after the flood, still happening. That's too.
Mm,
But
mm. Yeah.
um, but you know what I'm saying. So they bore these children. They were like reproducing of them, and their spirits are still probably trying to make a nuclear weapon happen to attack Jerusalem right now in Iran. So they're
Yeah.
at work, or
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
work, getting deep in the
Mm.
Word and in prayer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people kind of assume that the fall is like there's one fall, but there's actually more than one fall because this is the falling of the sons of God. which is Bnei Elohim. It's like these angelic creatures. Maybe angels are not the right word for it, but it's this whole class of spirit beings that fell, and then they became the principalities and powers. And then later on, I mean, in future chapters, we're going to see there's also the fall of nations, which we won't get into this week. But I think just overall, just the wickedness, and it just says, verse 5 in chapter 6, then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth. Every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. And then the Lord said, I will blot out man from whom I have created from the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things and to the birds of the sky, for I am sorry that I have made them. We can go into a lot about that, but we don't have time for that. But the last verse, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And it ends with this verse. Thoughts?
There's always hope, there's always hope. There's always remnant. There's always a salvation plan. There's always a what I call it plan A, plan Aliyah. These all, and
I love this plan Aliyah, plan A.
And it's always there, and God's got it, and He just there when it looks like the worst possible situation you can imagine. There's that hope, and we got to hold
Amen.
thread of
Well, for the rest of this year, we're gonna discover. I think there's something powerful about the journey of discovery. We're gonna discover this plan. Obviously, we've talked a lot today about a lot of these themes. But if you guys are interested, if you want to go deeper, I really, really recommend that you sign up for one of these Torah discussion study groups. We're going to have a weekly Zoom discussion, hopefully launched in the next week or two. And we're going to talk about these things and share your thoughts. I'm sure as you listen to this, to me and Chaim discussing this, you're going to have a lot of thoughts about this. So I strongly, strongly recommend that you sign up and just go on to tillzionsings.com. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, guys, be sure to subscribe with just type Till Zion Sings on any major platform, and we're on YouTube as well. So thank you again, Chaim, for coming on the show in the first ever episode.
Hey, it's a new year. It's a new season. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this year, and I'm excited. Thank you for your determination.
Amen. All right, thank you guys, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. For more information on Till Zion Sings Ministries and our mission, visit our website www.tillzionsings.com. For daily content, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Till Zion Sings. And lastly, for exclusive bonus content, become a supporting member of the show at patreon.com/tillzionsings.